Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Amazing Race Rewind podcast, the podcast where we rewind back in time to watch the earliest seasons of The Amazing Race for the first time. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Jill.
And we are here today with a very special guest that we're very excited to talk to about Season 2, Episode 2 of The Amazing Race. Here is Martine Munford. Martine, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of The Amazing Race.
Amazing Race Rewind.
Amazing Race Rewind. Yes, thank you.
So first things first, what is your history or familiarity with the show The Amazing Race? Are you familiar, a lifelong fan, first-time watcher? What do you know about the show?
I've watched a couple of the seasons before. I've watched more of Amazing Race Canada, just because, I'm Canadian. We watched it in school before. It's a part of our curriculum.
Okay.
That's not a lie. It was grades 1, 2, 3, 4 at least.
Well,
A 7-8.
we did in 7-8.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so I'm a bit familiar with the show. I
Right.
have not watched season 2, and I have not watched episode 1. And I just jumped right in with this one. I was so excited to be here.
Yeah, Martine is going to be kind of the model for us having a couple guests on this season. So she's going in completely blind, doesn't know any of the teams prior to this, maybe watched one of our past podcasts just to get an idea of the format, listened to one of our past podcasts. But yeah, this is kind of all new, and Martine is a lifelong friend of both Andrew and I, so we thought who better to have as our first guest.
Yep, here we are. So, Martine, what were your overall thoughts on this episode? Just kind of first impressions?
First impression is that Peggy and Claire, I'm rooting for them in every part of life.
Well, how can you not?
How can you not? When it comes to those grannies, I'm in the trenches with them, emotionally speaking.
Yeah.
They are your Dave and Margareta. True
Crickets.
fans know.
Dave and Margareta were my favorite team last season. I cannot stop talking about them. They were everything to me. I was invested emotionally, and my world collapsed in on itself when they were eliminated. So that's the kind of vibe that we're having with Peggy and Claire here as well.
Yeah, I'd also extend that to the twins. I'm very invested in them. I think they have good hearts.
Okay.
Like, they just seem to have, a good spirit about them, and I trust them in the show.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad you've got such strong and specific takeaways. That's great.
That's my role when it comes to watching, reality TV or any sort of, games. Yeah. I attach myself to the
You're
characters.
in it for the characters.
I'm in it for the characters, really and truly.
Well, overall, I thought that this was a fun episode. It was very travel-based. There was a lot of travel going on, but it was still very interesting. So a lot of the times the travel episodes can be kind of dull, but I think there was a lot going on.
They've picked it up since last season.
Yeah, and I think there were a lot of great quotes this episode, and I think this cast is really providing, especially as opposed to the season 1 cast.
We said before, they knew how to cast the personalities for this one.
The casting team really stepped it up from last season.
They did. All right. Well, now that you've met our guest and that we've got some first opinions out, let's just jump right into the episode, unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, I say let's get going.
All right. So where do we open?
So we are starting here with Tara and Will, the winners of the last leg. They're starting at 11:06 p.m. from the boat where the pit stop was last episode. And they are tasked with taking a taxi to a samba club where they have to then find a dancer whose headdress matches a feather that they've been given.
I will say, in the past, we've often talked about later starting times being a disadvantage. This is the first time I think that there's been a really, really late start time that they've been able to make progress and complete a task during. Yeah. But it makes sense because it was a nightclub.
Yeah, I was like, why are we racing in the middle of the night? This is really strange because usually they just have to go to bed right after because everything's closed. But here we are. Martine, what did you think of this Samba Club task here?
My biggest takeaway was I feel for the taxi drivers here.
Yeah.
And I've thought this each time I've watched Amazing Race, the amount of pressure and stress that they're under. Yeah. However, I know there's a lot of stress by the competitors in this. I think Tara was pretty rude to them in this episode. I don't want to talk badly about any of the contestants, but I wasn't a fan of that personally. I mean, the title of the episode, what was it? Help Me, I'm American.
Yes.
Yeah, set me up for it, and I think it delivered in that sense, but I wasn't jazzed about that part.
I will say, though, that quote, "Help me, I'm American," didn't actually come from the taxis there, though. That came a little later But it still sets, I think they picked a good quote to set the tone for the episode.
Absolutely.
So what Martine is referring to is, so Tara and Will, their taxi driver was just kind of driving around in his circles and didn't exactly know where he was going. And after they got out of the taxi, she promptly told him that he sucked at his job.
Yeah.
Which, I thought maybe Will was maybe just the volatile one, but they're both quite volatile actually after that. Like, could you imagine telling somebody that they just straight up suck at their job? After just, like, what?
Like, especially, like, driving around in the middle of the night with, like, passengers that don't speak your language and they're insisting that they do. I mean, what was it? They were speaking Spanish to Portuguese drivers. And I get the frustration by the taxi driver. I'm with them. Yeah. I'm on their side.
Moment of respect for taxi drivers on The Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Honestly,
absolutely.
We haven't acknowledged them enough.
Go through so much. I mean, we talked about last season in China when the taxi driver was like hitting himself because he was so stressed because the teams were just yelling at him.
I can't imagine the cameras on them help either.
Yeah.
Especially at night when you got the lights on them too. Like, that would stress out any driver regardless if that's your profession.
Yeah.
Something else to note. So while Cindy and Russell were going to this task, their taxi didn't know where he was going, and he pulled over to a gas station, which actually had an angel on it. And they claim in confessional that angel actually got them to the nightclub, and due to their religious associations, they have a spiritual advantage. So that angel was actually watching over them and helped them get to the nightclub.
I think if you need that takeaway to get you to the task at hand, absolutely do what you got to do.
Yeah. Is it just a coincidence or is it more?
That's the real question. Yeah. But for them, I don't think it was.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of good. I don't know. Is it offensive to call religion their shtick? Because that's kind of what it is.
I don't think, no.
I mean, as like a competitors, it was their gimmick.
I'd say we talk about the edit personality a lot, in last season, especially with the Guidos and being the villains and stuff, but you can definitely see that this is how they're being edited this season.
Right.
So absolutely.
The edit, I'd say right now, they're the only team that has a strong edit personality coming through, and that's what it is.
Yeah, well, I'd say them with that, and then Tara and Will, and also their villainy.
But Tara and Will have the, like, Frank and Margarita dynamic of, like, oh, they're a couple, but are they going to stay together?
I guess so, but I think they're kind of worse than Frank and Margarita, like, attitude-wise.
This isn't really related to any specific task, but I still wanted to ask it of you, Andrew, and actually works well for you too, Martine, being here. You both have siblings, and I know we talked about this a little bit before, but there were no sibling teams last season. This season, there are about 3 sibling teams. Would you ever consider this with your siblings?
No.
Absolutely not. No way.
We have, and I will just add here, we actually have an observer to this episode, Miss Kyla Johnson, who's actually a twin. And so let's hear because I feel like the twin versus sibling relationship is a little different.
It's different.
So the two of have siblings are saying absolutely not, but what's the twin take?
So my brother and I, we're very, very close. We've been close our whole lives, and we're very different when it comes to many different things, but I feel that we're both competitive, and that competition would probably drive us to work well as a team, I think. And I feel like the age difference between most of us here, you and your sisters, Martine, are very different in age, so I feel like there's some differences. And then as well as you and your siblings, Andrew, you probably have different mindsets, whereas Damon and I, my brother, we're literally 5 minutes far.
Yeah.
We know basically everything about each other. We work well that way. We know each other's strengths, we know each other's weaknesses, and we're very opposite in those fields. So I feel like him and I would work very well.
Interesting.
When it comes to twins. Also, I am team twin on the Amazing Race. I hope they win.
Okay, well, they won this leg, so there we go.
They're clearly doing
them.
well for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I just wanted to ask of that because I feel like it's a different dynamic this season, but it seems to be working out well for the sibling teams.
Yeah. So all the teams are kind of starting out their all starting at different times, obviously, and they're going to the task. And Mary and Peach, speaking of siblings, they get going, and Peach has a quote here where she says, quote, "My sister is like a mule. She can do anything." Now, I don't know how flattering it is to call somebody a mule. And when you think of what is the epitome of versatility and being able to do anything, are you going to think of a mule? I feel like a workhorse is a better compliment than a mule. Like, what? Can you enlighten me on this?
I will say, I've never heard that phrase be used before. I've never used it. Yeah, it's not the first word it's not the first equine animal I would use.
When I think mule, I think someone who can carry things and travel well.
Okay.
Like, yeah,
Maybe you can carry the pressure, carry the stress.
I get if they could apply it to an emotional sense. That being said, I don't think it's a compliment.
No, mule seems quite derogatory, so it
Yeah.
might have been backhanded. It might have been a charged comment there from Peach. Gary and Dave also get going, and Gary has a quote here saying that we may not have smarts, we may not have looks, but we have heart. And you know what? Tortoises aren't very smart, but they win the race.
He equates them to the tortoise and the hare story.
Yes. See, these people are giving great quotes here right off the bat.
They really are.
Yeah.
Or maybe the editors are just getting better at picking sound bites.
I mean, they got to get better with that with each season. I can imagine it can only go up from here.
I can imagine the same.
So the Samba Club, and I mean, all the teams start relatively close together too. It's not like a large gap. So they all get through the Samba Club task pretty quickly and move on to the detour.
Yeah, so the first team, Tara and Will, they started at 11:06 p.m., and then the Gutsy Grannies were the last team to depart at 1:32 a.m. So there is about a 2-hour difference there. So it's not too extreme here. So all the teams make it to the nightclub with little difficulty, other than the little bit of cab issues that were going on. And then after that, the next clue guides them to Pedra Bonita Mountain, which we get to our detour, which is Freak Out or Seek Out. Now, Jill, do you want to describe this detour for
Yes. So Freak Out involves hang gliding down to, well, we should add that the teams will have to sleep overnight with either task, and in the morning, they can wake up and either do Freak Out, which is hang gliding off the mountain they're on down to the beach, where they will immediately be handed their clue. But Seek Out means they drive down to the beach a little longer ways and actually have to take a metal detector and search in an allotted area of sand for their clue in the sand. And then there is also a fast forward here.
Yes, but I think before we get into the fast forward, Martine, what are you choosing here? Hang gliding or metal detecting?
Personally,
Yeah.
I am petrified of heights. And the idea of hang gliding sounds like the worst thing I can think of. So I'm all for metal detecting.
But here's the thing, is, and this is what I often say with these tasks, is I know I would say no, but I know that if it was me and Andrew would make me. So if you were with your ideal partner on the race, do you think anyone would be able to make you?
I think I could be inspired enough,
Yeah.
but I need to meet that person to inspire me, you know?
You haven't met them yet.
I feel like I haven't met my Amazing Race partner yet.
Interesting.
I'm still
Wow.
waiting for that in life.
Interesting. This is just a little takeaway too. You mentioned the mountain was called Pedra Bonita, and Bonita is in Spanish, beautiful, but Pedra's stone. So it literally translates to beautiful stone.
Wow. Good to you,
Yeah.
Espanol or Portuguese, yeah. So yes, but the thing is, the hang gliding is the faster option, so would that not motivate you, Martine, if you're on the Amazing Race?
I think I'd have to look at how much time I have, and also looking at my partner too. Like, okay, realistically, what do we think we're capable of? Because I think one of the main points of the Amazing Race is to push yourself and go past those boundaries that you've already have in place.
Yeah.
I don't know. If I were to do it, I feel like that's the time I would do it. you
Right,
know?
exactly.
And most teams do choose the hang glide. The only ones who don't are actually Gary and Dave end up at the Seek Out for a little bit, but that's only because they actually lose out on the fast forward task.
Yeah, so they spend a little bit of time doing the metal detector, but then they just kind of give up and see everybody else is doing the hang gliding and how much quicker the hang gliding is, so they go up and do the hang gliding anyway. Just to talk about the detour itself, can we get some better detours in here? Like, we're at season 2. Everybody's going to pick the hang gliding. It's going to be the faster option.
You think they would have learned from last time.
Yeah. And then also something notable is that the cab driver actually ran over Doyen's foot while they were going to this detour, and I cannot imagine how horrible
He
that would be.
he gets out of the car and then just instantly kind of exclaims and starts hopping, and the shoe is kind of still stuck under the wheel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta give it to him for walking it off, though.
I know. He just kept
And
going.
like to say to the cab driver, "Oh, it's not your fault. It's not your fault." I mean, that's what I'm saying. They've got the good spirit.
Yeah.
They got a good heart.
as opposed to Tara, who say you suck.
Yeah, it's the difference in treatment.
And I mean, he goes on to say that he's like, being in a full body cast is not enough to stop him from doing this race. So,
Well, that's the spirit we need.
Good for him. And the twins are actually the other team to go for the fast forward along with Gary and Dave.
Yeah, see, the Gutsy Grannies also go for the fast
That
forward,
is true.
but upon arrival, they see that other teams are there and say, okay, we're not going to beat them at volleyball because they're 30 years younger than us. So
Well, let's
we're just gonna
explain.
go
We haven't
to-
explained the fast forward, so let's do that.
Okay, yes. So the fast forward starts at 6:30 a.m. as opposed to the detour tasks, which start at 8 a.m., which is part of the motivation of why the twins and Gary and Dave did it, because they're like, okay, might as well try this out. So the task is that you have to score 10 points against professional volleyball players. Although the volleyball players in Rio style is apparently where you can't use your hands, which is news to me. I never knew that.
Yes. Now, I feel like this, when I was watching this, Andrew, I was thinking specifically of you.
Yeah.
Because you are the resident volleyball star. You've won awards.
Wow.
You've practically gone to the Olympics.
What? Oh, yep. That's me.
In my mind,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I was there, yeah.
Exactly. So, do you think we would go for this fast forward if you were doing it? Do you think you'd be able to win?
Well, I mean, like, eventually you're going to score 10 points. It's just a matter of the other team making mistakes.
But do you think you would absolutely murder the other team?
Well, I mean, it also depends on the partner, because volleyball is a team sport. You can't touch the ball 3 times in a row.
True.
So, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would go for the fast forward. Again, like always, it depends on where you are in the race and how you're feeling. But I think we could be fine at this.
Interesting.
Weren't they, like, the teams that were competing in that volleyball game? They weren't playing it the Rio way. They were just, like, playing regular volleyball for them.
Yeah, the other team that they had to play against were professionals who were playing the Rio style, but the Amazing Race teams could just play hands.
So
and
I
work
think
style.
Andrew would hold up pretty well.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? So, yes, Peggy and Claire go for it, and they have a quote here where Peggy says, Claire played volleyball in high school, so she thinks that she can beat professional players in Brazil.
And it's with a little bit of sarcasm. Not sarcasm, what's the word?
Snark.
Snark.
A
There we
little
go.
bit.
I admire the confidence, though.
Yeah,
If you think you can do it, do it.
go for it, yeah.
Now, before any of these tasks start, there is also a little bit of decision making by Blake and Paige, who debate doing the metal detector task. But to me, I think they almost crossed a line here. I almost think they gave themselves a penalty, but they avoided it. But do you want to explain that?
Well, I actually was quite impressed with Blake and Paige. I think this was outside of the box thinking of trying to do the detour before, because they have all this time to waste, because they're arriving at the mountain at like 1 a.m. or so, and the detour doesn't open until 8 a.m. So they say, okay, we're going to be standing here anyway, so might as well go down and try to find the clue. So they try to rent a metal detector from a hotel or something, but the hotel doesn't have one. But I appreciate the sentiment and the effort that they're putting in here.
See, to me, this is giving Robin Brennan buying a phone for $300 vibes. Like, I genuinely believe that this is something that they would be penalized for immediately, or if not, after this episode, it would be added to the rule book. Like, you can't go and like semi-complete a task before it opens.
Yeah, I would agree that they would probably put something in place after that. But overall, this episode, I thought Blake and Paige were quite resourceful. I thought they
had to be.
Yeah, they were scrapping.
I really admired their creativity.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was essentially by the rule book, and I think there's subject to like change later on, but I really respect them for doing that.
And they nearly avoided elimination in this episode, and they were fighting. So
They were.
they were my winner picks actually last episode. So yeah, okay, back to the fast forward task. So Gary and Dave and Shola and Doyeen go for it, and Gary and Dave are absolutely brutal at volleyball. They get like 2 points, while Shola and Doyeen get 10 points
And win the
quite
fast
quickly,
forward.
and win the fast forward, and are told to go to the pit stop, which is 900 miles away at Iguazu National Park.
The Iguazu Falls. I think they might be not a world wonder, but or they might be. They're up there.
I never heard
And
of
definitely
them.
I know last episode we talked about the big landmarks of South
Yes.
America that this season was going to hit, and they're definitely hitting one of them there.
And yeah, so we talked about how Gary and Dave did the beach task anyway since they're there, and then they switch to the hang glide once they see others doing it.
Now the hang glide, the gutsy grannies here have quite a debate as they watch the first couple teams, and we should add with the hang gliding, you can only go one at a time.
Yes.
So they're standing there and waiting, and they have a little bit of a debate. What were your takes on that?
Yeah. So
Bad knees all around.
Peggy is concerned about her knee that she had torn up years ago in a skiing accident. So she's a little bit apprehensive to be doing this hang gliding. And it takes the other teams to convince them to hang glide, because they didn't want to do it at first. But one of the teams said, well, you got to hand in your t-shirts because you're not gutsy grannies if you're
gonna bail on this task.
If you're not going to do the hang glide. So, yeah.
Hold them to it.
They do it, and there's a lot of as they watch the other teams take off, they're a little skeptical and they're a little nervous.
Yeah.
But they do it.
This was a very inspirational moment that touched the hearts of many people around the world, including myself.
Me as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was just beautiful. And I've written down in my notes here, gutsy grannies for the win.
I think that's just a theme of the episode.
Well, to be honest, I am shocked that they've made it this far. I thought last episode they were out. I thought this episode they were out.
No spoilers.
They're clinging on. And there's a quote here where one of them says, I think it's Peggy, she says, "My legs were wobbly. I could hardly stand up. We're going to go off balance. We'll dive down in the trees and die."
Is their accent that strong?
I think it was.
I think we can make it stronger.
I think that's you projecting a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm famously very bad at accents.
Yeah, it's giving you and the Kevin and Drew Bronx accent.
Yeah, well, I can do... Yeah, well, whatever.
It's okay, Andrew. I thought your accent was good.
Well, thank you. I really tried
And
to
that's
embody
literally what they
Peggy
sounded
there.
like.
Yeah, they're gonna
Yeah,
dive
you're not
down in
wrong.
the trees and die. So she did it overall, after all, I mean. And afterwards, she thanks her hang gliding person. She says, "Thank you, Marcel. That was wonderful." And says she's going to take hang gliding lessons now.
And I think she embraces him pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She truly had a meaningful experience.
And the music in the back is so inspirational. This changed lives. It did. And I'm so glad that they're on this season. They are really casting gold here. And I'm glad we get to spend more time with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the highlight from the detour here. Everybody does the hang gliding.
Everyone enjoys it.
Yes. And then afterward, they have to go to a bus station and take a bus to the next location, which is near the border of Argentina. And here, Shola and Dwayne are falling apart. One of them said that they twisted their ankle during the volleyball game, but...
They're going. They're still going.
And the fast forward wasn't so fast because they actually ended up on the same bus as Chris and Alex and Tara and Will.
Yeah, the only difference was that they, instead of having to complete a couple more tasks when they arrived to the location where the bus dropped them off, they could just go straight to the pit stop. But yeah, they were still kind of, I wouldn't say neck and neck, but there was that chance. It was, they're still not great at ensuring these fast forwards are fast yet.
Yes.
But I do think that's a part of the race that you're going to get into. I mean, as we find out later on, that one of the buses did end up breaking down.
Two of them did, I think.
Two of them, yeah.
I think that's just a part of how it goes.
Well, and, I mean, last season there was actually an instance where a team won the fast forward and actually almost...
They got last place.
They would have been eliminated had there not been a penalty in place from another team.
Yeah. They were overconfident a little bit, and they didn't really inquire further into... Well, it was a whole thing. Just listen to the episode.
What is that, episode 8, I want to say?
I don't know. Episode 8, episode 9, maybe. But yes, they have to go to Foz do Iguaçu, which is a 22-hour bus ride away. And the big drama here at the bus station is that Blake has lost his wallet, which is something that I would be terrified to do if on the race.
The wallet with all of the money they are given, the only money they have to get around on this leg. Remember that bus tickets, taxis, everything has to come out of the money they're given at the start of each leg. Only plane tickets they don't have to pay for.
Yeah. So, Martine, if you were on the race, how would you cope if you lost all your money? What would you do?
I think you got to begin with a solid cry.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would proceed in the same way that they did.
Yeah.
Going around saying, "I'm American, like, please give me money." I think you do have to beg a little bit. I don't know if I'd drop nationality in there. Yeah. It felt a little unnecessary for me, but I do get where they're coming from.
And this is what we brought up earlier, where the title of the episode is literally, "Help Me, I'm American."
Yeah. So what they did is they found somebody who spoke English and then got them to write a sign for them in Portuguese and essentially begged for money, which is, I mean, props to them for having the humbleness to be able to do that. You know, because I feel like you got to put your ego to the side a little bit to beg for money on this in Rio.
You're on The Amazing Race. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, but here, again, I was impressed by them with their resourcefulness. They weren't really fazed by losing their wallet. They just found a solution, and got on the bus.
If there's a will, there's a way. Although that's Tara and Will's thing.
Yeah,
that's not
because
Blake
his
and
name
Paige.
is Will, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of bus trouble that comes up.
Yeah, well, and also Blake and Paige say that they actually got $20 within like 5 minutes, so it worked for them.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, it probably helps that they're both good looking and young, you know?
Yeah,
Like, if
and you
they
got
were-
cameras on them too.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
too, I guess. The first bus is leaving at 9:50 a.m. and it has Chris and Alex, Shola and Dwayne, and Tara and Will on it. The second bus is at 10 a.m., only 10 minutes afterward, which is Cindy and Russell, Oswald and Danny, and Mary and Peach. The third bus leaves at 11 a.m. and has Gary and Dave and Peggy and Claire are on it. The first bus actually breaks down.
blows out a tire.
Yeah.
See, and this is what there's a moment of panic here, but this is what I love. Is it Chris or Alex from Chris and Alex?
It was Chris, I think.
Chris, I guess, knows how to change a tire, and he's not waiting around. He gets everybody up, and he's going to change his tire. And I just love it, because basically all the teams are just like, okay, what do we need to do? And the bus driver is almost just kind of standing back and letting them do it, because they're so invested. My thought process is, what do all these people who are just like sitting on the bus, just kind of probably like, oh, there's our bus. Like, what would you think when you just see a band of like 6 to 8 Americans with TV cameras on them, like aggressively changing a tire?
And they're like, we gotta fix this ourselves.
I know.
Because I know the bus driver was trying to change it at one point, and he had said, like, and one of the contestants had said, like, oh, if he's not doing it right, I'm just gonna hop in there. And I'm like,
and then
wow.
he did.
And that's what he did.
Yeah.
They gotta take matters into their own hands. I mean, I feel like they really just cast extroverts on this show who are just like willing to do whatever.
Can you cast an introvert on this show? I think you have to like have the personality for it.
Yeah. So I think overall this was like a pretty good scene. It was pretty entertaining.
But that's not the only bus trouble that was encountered.
Yeah, what is going on with the buses in Brazil here? Did they just like conk out? What is happening?
I don't know. Is this a pattern that we're looking at?
Yeah.
Is this a sabotage of The Amazing Race?
So also the bus with Gary and Dave on it broke down. But I think another bus came and they ended up being fine. This wasn't really detrimental to anybody, but it was kind of an interesting scene and added a little bit of entertainment value to this moment.
The double bus breakdown.
Double bus breakdown.
But either way, the teams do get back and up on their way. And when they reach their destination, the twins head off to the pit stop while the others have to get into a Jeep SUV type thing and direct themselves to the roadblock.
Yes, which is at Macuco Safari Dock in Iguazu National Park.
I love this roadblock. I would absolutely 100% do it. I think it would be so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, the roadblock thing was literally who has a keen eye and good sense of direction, and right away it's Jill. Because...
Of course.
Yeah, because if anything direction-wise, that's in your hands, Jill.
If we've learned anything.
Yeah.
I will say, though, and here kind of at the roadblock, the first two who arrive are Tara and Will and Chris and Alex, and there seems to be a little bit of an alliance forming.
Yeah, they had like a little bit of a mini alliance where they were kind of helping each other, but there was also like a tiny bit of drama with the Jeeps because they were working together, and then Tara and Will just kind of took off without Chris and Alex.
But Tara didn't want him to.
Yeah.
She was telling Will to wait, and Chris and Alex knew that. So I think honestly, that almost might be the way to do it. It's like, if you want to form an alliance, like, have one person who will, like, in that instance, Chris and Alex can't be mad at both of them as a team. They're just mad at one of them.
Yeah, but still, I feel like it only takes one person for you to get mad and then, like, ditch the whole team. But I don't think this alliance is going to last.
It's pretty early on.
Yeah.
I will say that Chris and Alex and Tara Will are giving very strong Robin Brennan and Frank and Margarita vibes.
Yeah.
Like almost identical.
That is true. And so, yeah, after Will and Tara kind of, like, ditch Chris and Alex, Will asks Chris and Alex for help, and then Tara says, quote, "You're a horrible, evil man." So... Yeah.
This is before they get to the roadblock, navigating there.
Yes, so I guess this is just kind of their banter. Martine, do you have any impressions of Will and Tara here?
Is it banter or is it mean? That's my question here. Yeah. I mean, you're going to run into like personal problems with the contestants. They're obviously going to argue coming on to the show. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I do like some drama, but I just don't think it's in good taste. Personally,
no, it's not. And you know what? I think that's the reason why they were cast on the show. They were cast so people would say, okay, you're not a good person. And they're cast because they knew that they were going to create some drama. And that's what we're here for.
That's what makes good TV in the end.
Yeah.
But I will say, after at the roadblock, when it's Tara, and then which one of it from Chris and Alex is... Which one of them, sorry, is...
I have no idea.
One of whoever's doing the roadblock, they both get up to you have to get off the boat once you... No, we didn't even explain the roadblock. Sorry. So you get into kind of this raft that then they have to navigate through these like minor rapids into kind of the heart of the falls. They have to spot the Amazing Race flag, and then the boat will go over towards the flag. They get out, go up some steps, and there's a clue box. And when the two of them because they've kind of teamed up, get up there, they actually take a moment and just like take in the falls. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and they said that they loved working together, so maybe there could be a little bit of a post-season romance there between Tara and Alex. Who knows? It was a cool roadblock. It was very scenic. It looked very nice. But yeah, really not a lot going on there.
And again, no team struggled with it immensely.
So then, yeah, after the roadblock, teams have to drive and then hike over to the pit stop. And the first team to arrive are Shola and Doyen, who had the fast forward. And they had such a rough leg, but they were persistent
Pun
and
intended.
ended up in first anyway.
Pun intended, rough leg.
Yeah, they did. Okay. Well, whatever. But I don't think they won anything, did they?
No, I don't remember Phil saying they won anything, which is weird because it was Tara and Will that won the first leg, and they got a trip to Hawaii.
They did. Yeah, I would feel ripped off if I were Shola.
So they didn't get anything?
No,
and they just started doing prizes this season, or the one prize that was last leg.
Yeah.
They didn't do prizes for the first leg last season, which is a staple of the Amazing Race Canada too.
Well, I think that just comes with budget, probably.
They needed the sponsorships,
Yeah.
and they didn't have them. There's not a lot of drama in the next couple check-ins until we reach the end, quote unquote, Peggy and Claire.
Yeah, so just really quickly, Chris and Alex are in second here, Tara and Will are in third, Mary and Peach come in fourth, Gary and David are in fifth, Cindy and Russell in sixth, Oswald and Danny are in seventh, and yes, Peggy and Claire, they think that they're dead last, they think they're done, they think that their race has come to an end, but they were surprised once again.
They had the honestly the best pit stop reaction we've seen all show, and these are the ones I missed last season. These types of reactions.
Yeah, and we see here everybody... Yeah, okay, so when they're walking in, first of all, they called Phil Dr. Doom. They said, oh yeah, we walked in and it's very dramatic, and you think, okay, swell. Which is such old lady term that I love. And I think they said swell earlier because I think at the train station... They got somebody to translate for them, and they said, yeah, we met this really swell guy who translated it all for us. And you know what? Peggy and Claire, they are everything to me.
It's giving all be dipped.
Martine, are you loving these constant references?
It's just, they're lost on me, but I really appreciate them. Yeah. It feels like The Amazing Race, it just keeps on going, adds on to itself.
That's the thing. That's why we're here, and we're here to document every moment of it. So, Martine, I'm sure you were elated to see the Gutsy Grannies make it to 8th place.
I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
I needed them to be in it, and I was getting close to the end. I was getting nervous.
Yeah.
They were nervous. It was getting to me. But I think that's the spirit of The Amazing Race, is that, I mean, it's not over until it's over.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think it's as simple as oh, these ones are the most athletic, they're going to win. I like that there's a chance for the Gutsy Grannies to win, to get in there, to keep going. It's
anything can
inspirational.
happen. Anything can happen on the race.
I am praying that we will have them for weeks to come. And all the other teams seem to love the Gutsy Grannies as well, as the other teams are very excited to see them come in at the pit stop. They're hugging, they're cheering. They are happy to see them.
So the Gutsy Grannies come in at 8th, and now we have quite an intense battle.
Yes, between Blake and Paige and Hope and Norm here. And Blake and Paige here, impressing me again with their resourcefulness. They are talking to people on the bus, and they meet somebody with a travel guide, and they get a map and directions for how to get to the roadblock.
Before they even get off. And now they're saying that they did it quite sneakily. They knew that Hope and Norm were on the same bus, but they didn't... They're like, as much as we love them, it's a race. So they sneak to the back, they copy the map, and then that gives them a little bit of an advantage getting to the roadblock.
Yep, so they get to the roadblock first. Paige completes the roadblock first, and they check into the pit stop in 9th place, and Hope and Norm are eliminated. Martine, how do you feel about Hope and Norm here?
Honestly, did not have a lot of thoughts on them to begin with. Yeah. In this moment, I mean, I was there with Blake and Paige. I was rooting for them. I liked their resourcefulness, and I don't think someone should be punished for not having that, but it worked out how it worked out for a reason, maybe.
And I mean, Blake and Paige had quite the drop, but I think it was due to them losing their wallet.
Yeah.
But they made up for it
they
impressively.
Bounced back.
And I think next episode we're gonna see them come back.
See, I think they have the ability to come back, and I hope we'll be seeing them for a long time, because I think they have a lot of grit in them. I think they have a lot of fight in them, and Hope and Norm were giving stale bread. They were giving nothing.
I'm with you. I agree.
I say good riddance, Hope and Norm. You're out of here.
I do have a question for Blake, though, and I noticed this throughout the episode. Does he have a budget for his bandanas and his cowboy hats? Because they change frequently. I was watching this. I observed this, actually.
You're on Cowboy
this
Watch,
several times in my notes here. it felt like it was always changing in the best way. Like, it kept it very fresh for me, and it showed, oh, time has passed. And it helped me with the pacing of the show.
Okay.
I look forward to seeing that more. That's what I'm trying to
This
say here.
is the perspective that we needed and why we brought you on here. So I thank
Exactly.
you for that. Yeah.
So that's the episode, but we have to talk about the scenes from next week's episode, because the one that really stuck out to me is the gutsy grannies sleeping through their departure
God,
time,
yeah.
and Blake choosing not to wake them up.
See, you know,
And Andrew, I know you wouldn't wake them
Yeah.
up. Like, let's be real, you're ruthless. But how do you sleep? Like, to sleep through your departure time, that's the worst way to get out. Like, if I were to be eliminated in any way, that would be I think the one that I would hate the most, because you would just beat yourself up about it.
yeah, because it's such a stupid thing. But I don't know. I feel like it might not be that huge of a deal, but we'll see.
Maybe they're just trying to get us.
They might be trying to get us, which is what they do on these shows.
Blame it on the edit here.
Yeah, we're blaming it on the edit. But overall, I thought it was a really fun, fast-paced episode. Like, there was always something happening. There wasn't really a slow point, I thought.
I know.
Engaging
Well,
throughout.
even our recording, like, I'm looking at the time. Either we're just getting better at this and we're more concise, or this was just a tightly packed but like well done episode.
Yeah, I don't really have much complaints here other than the detour, obviously. But comparatively, the detour isn't as bad as what we've seen in the past.
No, they're getting slightly better.
Yeah.
I bet, if we go back through literally every single episode, we'll talk about the quality of the detour, like if you went back and listened.
Yeah.
But you know what? You need to talk about it because they're still not great, but they're getting better.
Yeah, we had a detour, we had a roadblock, we had some nice traveling, we had some drama with the bus transportation. I think overall it checks every box of an Amazing Race episode.
It was eventful and it was fun. Martine, any kind of final thoughts on the episode as someone who was coming into this completely blind?
I think it was a good episode to come in for, and I think it got me the energy that I think the Amazing Race has, and I think I'm gonna tune in for some more episodes, and I look forward to hearing from the podcast.
Love to hear
Okay.
it.
Well, we love hearing from you guys as well. So send us an email,
Yeah.
amazingracerewind@gmail.com, or follow us at Amazing Race Rewind. Andrew always posts clips from episodes. We always love to have a new subscriber, new follower.
Yeah. And actually, I was looking at the Amazing Race Wikia page from this episode, and there were a couple fun facts on there that I thought would be notable.
Oh.
So actually, the location of the Samba Club was originally in Argentina, but it got switched due to ongoing riots going on at the time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they were supposed to be in Argentina this leg. And also, when Blake and Paige were driving to the roadblock, apparently the Jeep provided for them in the episode broke down through no fault of his own or his sister, and allegedly threatened to sue CBS for it. But ultimately, didn't
Blake
make a
threatened
difference. Threatened to sue CBS because their Jeep broke down.
That is Robin Brennan on like the next level.
And we didn't get a clip of that at all? Not even like a bonus
Well,
scene of that happening?
Maybe we
I
need
feel
the
like
DVD.
that's not a good look for CBS if they were to have.
No,
have
but if
that
it
in
made it
their
onto
thing.
the Wikipedia page, what happened there? How'd that story leak?
Yeah,
You know
well,
what? These
maybe-
people have given a lot of post-race interviews.
Yeah.
Maybe it was on the DVD, which we haven't acquired. Maybe we need to work on that.
Yeah.
Maybe you could gift it to us.
Yeah, we're gonna have a PO box now. We're gonna open that up.
yeah.
Send some physical
Wow.
gifts to us. But yeah, ultimately in the end, it didn't make a difference since they beat Hope and Norm anyway without any production intervention or a time.
I mean, that really says something about Paige and
Time
Blake
credit.
here. Like,
They're overcoming
their work
all
ethic
odds. Yeah.
throughout has just been stellar.
Yep.
Well, I don't have anything else to add. I don't know about you guys.
I am looking forward to the rest of the season. Gutsy Grannies for the win. That's all I have to say.
Gutsy Grannies for the win.
I think
Absolutely.
that's a general consensus.
Okay. So,
Thank you so much for listening. Again, Instagram, Gmail.
yeah, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Share us with a friend, help us out, and we will see you next week with episode 3.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.